This is a map.
This is a trail. And this is a bike. For our AP Hug project, we decided to relate mountain bikes to geography. Mountain bikers require geography for knowing where they're going and even for building trails. In terms of maps, mountain bikers use reference maps to know where they're going and thematic maps to know what the trail is going to be like. Also, topographic or ice line maps show the different steepness of trails, which is required for riders to know if they're ready for it or not. A steeper trail will have lines closer together, and these are better for advanced riders because they contain harder features, but not necessarily faster speeds. On steep terrain, riders must control their speed as trails are often natural with a lot of rocks and roots. For example, an extremely steep trail in Golden, British Columbia has a length of 311 meters, but a descent of 148 meters. This gives it an average grade of negative 47%, or an average downwards pitch of 25 degrees. On a less steep trail, the lines on the ice line map are farther apart, and this is better for less steep flow trails as well as beginner trails. Riders can focus on jumps and features ahead instead of controlling their speed and watching out for trees. For example, a flat trail, Easy Does It, located in Whistler, is 2.1 kilometers long and has 130 meters of descent. This gives it an average grade of about 6% and an average downwards pitch of about 4 degrees. These data numbers are found on trailforks.com. Less steep trails are generally more popular. According to Trailforks ride log data, the most popular trail in the world is an intermediate trail in North Vancouver, British Columbia called Bobsled. It has a length of 754 meters and a descent of 104 meters. This gives it an average grade of negative 14%, so good for all types of riders. Mountain bikers can also use sight and situation factors. An example of a situation factor is Duthie's closeness to suburban neighborhoods. It's close to a bunch of neighborhoods, so a lot of people can easily access it. This boosts its popularity, bringing a lot of people from nearby neighborhoods for recreation. In terms of sight factors, Duthie has a variety of terrain that makes it better suited for flow and jump trails. This attracts beginners due to its easy jump trails as well as advanced riders because of its big jumps. In comparison, Whistler is an extremely large and vast mountain with beautiful peaks, lush forest, big rocks, roots, and a multitude of terrain enjoyed by all distinct kinds of riders. The valley it is in is a paradise for mountain bikers. Its different topography across the whole mountain and valley makes it great for beginner flow trails, to big jumps, to steep and challenging trails.
Urban areas have less opportunities for mountain biking due to a variety of factors. One reason is that urban areas have a high population density, meaning that most of the land in urban areas is taken up by infrastructure, and majority of its land usage is residential and commercial. Mountain biking areas are typically located in slightly more rural, mountainous areas because they have a lower population density, requiring less of a need for infrastructure, and a large amount of land available for recreational use. However, these parks cannot be located too far into rural areas because the trails still need to be close enough to population-dense areas or urban areas to meet the threshold of customers required to support the bike park.
Climate also has a large impact on how mountain bike trails are built. For example, the time of mountain bike trail in a more dry area like Montana or Idaho or most of the Rockies are going to be steeper technical trails, as the dry climate means that dirt cannot pack down to make good jumps. If it's a flatter desert, like in Arizona, they will have more long, flat, and slower trails. In a perfect area like the Pacific Northwest, we will have everything from flowing jump trails to steep chutes to long rides through the woods.
Mountain bike parks take careful consideration on creating sustainable rules and bike trails to ensure the least amount of impact on the environment. For example, many bike parks implement a ban on tear-offs which are small pieces of plastic that go over your goggles that you can rip off in case mud clouds your vision. Also, bike parks remove all dirt and waste that they may cause from making the trail safely to ensure no harm to any nearby water sources or any parts of the environment. Bike parks must take careful consideration on where and how they build a trail. For example, if they build next to a water supply like this creek or a river, that trail might erode into the river, causing contamination of the water and destruction of the trail.
Development also is an impacting factor on mountain bike trails. Typically, less developed countries do not have the access to proper gear and bikes, and therefore mountain biking is not as popular there. In less developed areas, they don't have the right infrastructure to access the right tools to build and support bike parks. In comparison, developed countries often have more access to bike trails. Mountain biking can also be a great example of environmental determinism. The topography of the land and its natural features determine what trail builders can create. As we mentioned before, places with little hills or mountains cannot build downhill-style trails. Mountain biking can also relate to possibilism, as with modern trail building styles, bike parks and trail builders have started installing irrigation systems to keep the dirt on the trail nice and damp instead of dry and loose during the sweltering summer months. For example, Duthie and Whistler is an irrigated trail and therefore generally has good trail conditions throughout the whole time it's open. In many mountain towns and areas near mountain biking, agglomeration happens. The Sea to Sky Corridor and Whistler are perfect examples of this. Freeride mountain biking first started in the bottom of this corridor in North Vancouver, and it diffused up the corridor along Highway 1, with world-class trails being built in Squamish, Whistler, and Pemberton in the last 24 years. Although this is more an example of cultural diffusion, it can also relate to agglomeration, as in the Whistler village, several ski and bike shops have popped up everywhere. Tourists and travelers often need rentals, and bike shops provide that. Riders also need these services, as bikes break often. They will need parts and mechanics to fix their bikes, which makes bike shops in demand. Today my bike is broken, so I'll be renting a bike from Evolution Whistler. Thanks for watching our video. We hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you.